Hello dear friends, how are you all? Thanks for watching my previous video. I hope you're following my videos, you're following my lectures. Let's make use of it. In last class we had speak about the famines, epidemics and all. Now let's continue the topic of plant pathology. Let's get into the another important part of the basics of plant pathology, that is history and development of plant pathology. It is very important because before knowing something you should know the history of it. So this is important. Let's get into the subject and we can rock it. Yes. Before speaking this, I say in any part of science or any technologies or any knowledge we speak, there is a reference in India. Indian system or Indian education or Indian literature speaks about many knowledge, many sciences, many things. In later years or in ancient years, we say Rishi were there were some saints who were doing that, like Parashara or some others, even Dronacharya and all. But they're not only saints, they're not only that, they're actually scientists, dear friend. They're scientists. These Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda, Krishi Parashara, Arthashastra, Sushruta Samhita, Vrikshayurveda, Agni Purana. These are all scientific books which have scientific references. They have referred there. In Western culture or in Roman or Latin, we speak about only of 2500 years old, something. But this is more ancient than this. So we should have a knowledge of Indian system or Indian literature. We should know, because even though there are no manual proof, they give clues. Once I have read that the Wright brothers who discovered the aeroplanes, they had referred some of the books of Indian Vedas. So this is the power of Veda. This is our Indian system. I think if anyone had come and introduced the Sanskrit, or if anyone familiarized the Sanskrit or the power of Veda, I think what we say the Latin words, scientific names like Phytophthora and Fuscins were Latin words or Greek words. We could have said that this word is derived from Sanskrit. Most of the words would have been derived from Sanskrit, because that is the power of Veda. I think if you have a problem, you will find an answer it. Either it may be science or technology or anything it may be. Okay, let's come to the topic, that is Indian literature had a reference 4000 years old itself, that is Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda. In all those four Vedas, there is a mention, and especially in the Rigveda, there is a mention about some classifications of diseases, and there is also a mention about germ theory. Germ theory it is here. So Rigveda is very important. Such Vedas have some mentions about the diseases. And Krishi Parashara. Krishi Parashara was written by the Parashara Maharshi, and he have given some descriptions about it, and there are many references. Arthashastra was written by Kautilya. Kautilya written, it is mainly of economic, it has a reference of economics, but still we have a reference on agriculture and diseases also. Sushruta Samhita, it is of medicine, the power of plants or some medicinal properties and all. It is very important for Ayurveda students, but still it has a mention about diseases of plants and maybe some cure for it and all. Vrikshayurveda, this is very important in plant pathology, because this is the first book which is exclusively for plant diseases. That was written by Surapal. Exclusively written on plant diseases by Surapal, and there are some mentions in Vishnu Purana and Agni Purana also. So this is the power of Indian literature. They have the mention of diseases. There are many clues to many problems in these literatures. Okay friends, now let's speak about the Western literature, which has a mention about the plant diseases, that is Theophrastus. Theophrastus is a Greek philosopher. It was around 2400 years ago. Theophrastus, who is a Greek philosopher, had written two books, that is Historica Plantarum, Dicosis Plantarum. In these two books, there is a mention of diseases about rust and mildew. Rust and mildew, at that time he has mentioned in his book, and he had said that he has concluded that maybe some bad air or bad nutrition has caused this disease. So that is one of the Western oldest literature, and in Indian point of view, Indian literature has a mention about that, but still, it in Westerns this is the oldest one, and that is, as I said, bad air and bad nutrition. This was given by Theophrastus. And next one is the Romans. Among Romans, there was a festival. There was a festival with name Rubigalia. This is the festival name celebrated by Romans in order to solve the problems of stem rust of wheat. What they did is to sacrifice the god of Rubicus and Rubigo. To solve this problem, in order to worship these two gods, they sacrificed a red dog. They sacrificed these red dogs to satisfy these gods in order to solve the problems of stem rust of it. In India also there is very mention. I think nowadays for human problems we have seen plaguenema to solve plague, and maybe now corona will also come to solve it. It's a habit of people. It's a habit of people to believe in something that they will come and solve the problems. That is what is the belief in God. Some people may call it as intuitions, but it's actually the intellectuality of people. That is the power of Indian system. And in Romans also, they had also celebrated a few festivals. It's one of the mentioned among it. Okay, friends. In this history, or in the history of plant pathology, we shall go along with the scientist. Let's see a scientist and his works, what he has done. And the first one is here, Anton van Leeuwenhoek. He is very important person for a pathologist or for a microbiologist, for anyone, because his work, or it was the beginning of the era, because he was working in a goods store. I think it's a Adrie goods store in Holland. He was resident of Holland. In that goods store, he was working as a person to count the threads in the cloth. Some of the cloth where you should be count the threads. He was using a magnifying lens to count those, and to such an extent he worked on those magnifying lens, which could help him a lot. He started to curve the magnifying lens, and he started to develop his own. His curvature or his curved lenses were excellent. Later, this habit of Anton van Leeuwenhoek led him to the discovery of microscope. By that, the era began, and it has now come to the electron microscope, SEM, tunneling microscope, and all. But still, it was the beginning, and so he was rewarded as the father of microscopy. And he also observed few of the microorganisms like bacteria and few fungi. With us, when we get something new, we try to explore it a lot, and he did the same. And there is another person with name Zachariah Janssen. Zachariah Janssen, he is a person, he developed a compound microscope. And he worked on the physics of the microscope, means how the rays passes, curvatures, focal points and all. He worked on that, and he developed the compound microscope. I think such a knowledge is required to develop compound microscope, because only biologists can't develop that easily. So by the Zachariah Janssen, we got a compound microscope. Okay, friends. Next important scientist is Michele P.A. He is very important, friends, because he is father of mycology. Now let's see why he was rewarded as a father of mycology. He was the first person to analyze the fungus and observed few spores. He observed the spores and collected them, and he observed many fungus and all. He worked on it for many years, and he wrote a book with the name Nova Plantarum Genera. Nova Plantarum Genera. The book was written by Michele P.A. He was worked in the year 1729. In this book, he mentioned that if the spores of the fungus is placed in a watermelon, some fruit source, or from some fruits, then it will develop into a thallus. He has mentioned in his book. So that is why it is very important. And thus he was rewarded due to his work. He was rewarded as father of mycology, and he introduced a genera with the name Puccinia. Puccinia, I think we have learned many diseases, or we will see in further classes about the Puccinia genera. But the genera Puccinia was given by him. It is very special because it was given in order to honor his friend Puccini, who worked with him and helped him in his research. So that is why it's very important. And next important scientist is Tillet. His work was in 1775. What he did is he worked on stinking smut of wheat. Stinking smut of wheat, and he said that the black powdered, or some plants having a black powdered surface, is more contagious, or it will cause more diseases to his neighboring plants, or the field with it has more contagious nature. He said that if the wheat seeds are treated, then the reduction of this stinking smut is observed. And he also had a guess that it is caused by toxins produced by this fungus. It is not the fungus which is causing, it is the toxins produced by them is causing the symptoms, and that is the source of this stinking smut of wheat. That's why Tillet's work is also very important. Okay friends, Benedict Prevost. Benedict Prevost, his work was in 1807, and he proved that diseases are caused by microorganisms. Diseases are caused by microorganisms. He proved that. And he worked on burnt, and he had given the life cycle of burnt. It's very important. And he also said that copper sulfate can be used to control the disease. He said that Benedict Prevost said copper sulfate can be used to control the disease, and he worked on burnt, and he gave the life cycle of burnt. Next, E.M. Fries. E.M. Fries is a person who worked on the classification of the fungi. So he was named as the Linnaeus of mycology. We know that Linnaeus is the person who gave the classification of many kingdoms, and he was named as, in order to honor him, Linnaeus of mycology was given to him, and his classification was written in the book Systema Mycologicum. Systema Mycologicum, it's a book which contains the classification. So is the Linnaeus. Okay. Next, Robertson. Robertson is from England, and he said that sulfur can be used to treat the peach mildew. In the year 1821, he gave that sulfur can be used to treat the peach mildew. Okay friends, let's come to our father of modern plant pathology. We have discussed about him few things. Now we shall know what his works and all. Anton Debary. Anton Debary, his major works were in the years 1831 to 1888, and he was a German. Experimental plant pathological study was developed by him. His major work was identifying a pathogen for the late blight of potato. That is the root cause for the Irish famine. That is Phytophthora infestans. He discovered in the year 1861. That's his major work. Due to this, the Department of Plant Pathology got existed and all. And he also gave the heterogeneous nature of the rust fungi. Heterogeneous nature of the rust fungi. He also studied on the rust, mud and all. His work was in various fields and various organisms prescribed to the pathology. Okay, he also gave the physiology of the plant disease study, how the plant disease should be studied and how it should be done, how it should be controlled, how it should be analyzed is given by him. And he also gave that the enzymes and toxins, the symptoms developed in those periods were of something degradations, or which we can easily distinguish now. They were not able to distinguish at that time. So he said that some of the enzymes and some of the toxins are responsible for such tissue degradation. This the role of the enzymes and toxins, that is how these influence in the degradation activities, and their importance was given. For the first time the term symbiosis was used, and he coined the term symbiosis. And for the first time report on lichens was given. Lichens is the combination of fungi and alga. It was first reported by Anton Debary, and he coined the term symbiosis. Thus, there are still lot many works on it by him, but these are majorly considered, majorly have a literature importance and all. So, as due to his all works, we have honored him with the father of modern plant pathology. When all was suffering of many problems, many diseases, many plant pathogens, we needed something to overcome that. The chemicals or the treatment or the some plant protection chemicals or protection methods were not much useful. There was the importance of breeding a resistance one. That is, resistance breeding is had got importance in that sense, and Anton and Biffen were the pioneers of the resistance breeding to many diseases. Biffen in 1905 he worked on the resistance of yellow rust of wheat. There was the disease yellow rust of wheat. He worked on it and tried to give the resistance to this disease, and he is successful. And Anton in the year 1909 he worked on the resistance of wilt on cotton, watermelon and coffee. There was wilt on that. He tried to bring new varieties that could tackle the problem, that is resistance over these wilts. And he was the important person to distinguish what is disease resistance and what is disease escape. I think disease resistance means, just a bit I will tell, if the plant could not able to get attacked by the pathogen, or the pathogen could not able to establish its interactions with the host, then we say it's a disease resistance. Disease escape means if the if the environment is very favorable in particular month, if the favorable host is not available or the favorable stage of the host is not available, then the host will get escaped from that disease. Thus we call disease escape and disease resistance. I will clear these concepts in further classes. Stay tuned for that. Now next work was by Erickson. So these two persons are the pioneers of the resistance breeding. And let's come to this. Erickson in 1894, what he did is he gave this physiological specialization of the rust fungi. You know, the rust has a very important genre, that rust has its many physiological importance or the many characteristics in it of 5 spores, different spores and all. It is very important, and he gave for the first time he gave the physiological specialization. The rust has its own physiological specialization and all. He worked on Puccinia graminis triticide. And he also gave the variability in fungi, how it is done and all. There are some other works were also done by Erickson. Okay friends, let's see next important scientist and his works. E.C. Statement in the year 1922. Please be careful friend, it is after the 28 years of the identification of the first report on the physiological importance of the rust fungi. He also worked on the Puccinia graminis triticide. What he did is he took different samples and different traces from 12 different international countries, and he worked on it, and he took an isolate of that. He studied. By testing all this, he gave the physiological races of Puccinia graminis former species triticide. That is the important work in the rust was given by Statement. That is after 28 years of the first report on the physiological specifications. Next important scientist is Julius Kuhn. Julius Kuhn in the year 1878. What he did is he gave the importance of the disease study along with the management. You have to study the disease, analyze the disease, and you have to manage the disease also. That's also one of the important aspects of the plant pathology. He gave the importance. He wrote a book with the name Disease of cultivated crops and their causes and control. It was written by Julius Kuhn, and it's very important. It gave the basement for the analyzing and finding a solution. Next, Floor. I think you would know him. Floor in 1946, what he did is he gave gene for gene concept, and he, by working on the linseed rust, Melanspora limi, my pathogen is Melanspora limi is the pathogen. By working on the linseed rust, he gave the gene for gene concept. It's very important in genetics, but it's also mentioned here. Okay, friends. Next important person is Vander Planck. Vander Planck in 1963, what he did is he gave the important concept, that is two types of resistance. What is one is horizontal resistance and vertical resistance. Let's see one by one. Vertical resistance is what happens is a character controlled by major genes, few major genes, oligogenes, what we call, and vertical resistance is race specific. Vertical resistance is race specific, major genes, oligogenes, few genes, or control, a character would be controlled. Horizontal resistance in this, what happens is a character is controlled by many minor genes, that is polygenes, and it is non-race specific, that is it is not race specific. These are very important types of resistance. You'll come across many concepts regarding this vertical and horizontal resistance, and he also worked on the and the disease resistance, and he wrote a book, Disease Resistance in Plants. Disease Resistance in Plants, and he was rewarded as the father of plant disease epidemiology. Epidemiology based on his works. And there was a person with name Goman in the year 1946. What happened is he worked on the phenomena of resistance through hypersensitivity, how the phenomena of resistance can be done. These are all he worked on the how the pathogen produce the toxins. He also worked on the taxonomy of the fungi pathogens, the greatest works were done on these fungi. Okay friends, thanks for watching this video. I hope you are following me. Thanks for your likes and comments, and wait for my next video to continue the other scientists or other works, other history, what happened in the bacteria, and how the works are done in the virus and viroids and the phytoplasma, nematodes and all. Stay tuned to get notified. Thank you.